空姐为什么很难追？
现实生活中，如果你想追求空姐的话，除非你在民航圈或者航空公司有认识的人，他们可以帮你介绍。所以大部分人想追求空姐，只能通过坐飞机。那你想要空姐在人群中一眼能够相中你的外貌，几乎不可能。那外貌不行，那就味道来凑。有的时候好闻的香水味也是能让空姐瞬间记住。
Flight attendants are beautiful and sexy. So why do most Chinese men hesitate to marry them? You'll understand once you see their private lifestyle. Nowadays, to save travel time, many people choose flying as their preferred mode of long-distance travel. The speed and convenience of air travel have brought great benefits to people. However, during the flight, those elegant flight attendants also become a hot topic of conversation. They're not only known for their excellent appearance, but also for always smiling and providing thoughtful service to passengers. In people's minds, the profession of flight attendant is often filled with endless fantasies because it's not just a glamorous job, but also a luxurious journey, especially on international flights, which allow them to cross borders and explore every corner of the world. However, despite the beauty, sexiness, and decent income of flight attendants, why do most men still shy away from pursuing them? First of all, the lifestyle and schedule of flight attendants are extremely irregular and unpredictable. Flights operate across different parts of the world at all hours, and their working hours span from early morning to late night. For flight attendants, once they board the plane, their life rhythm is entirely dictated by flight schedules, meaning the typical 9-to-5 routine is a luxury they can't afford. Especially nowadays, night flights are becoming more common. Therefore, flight attendants must adapt to this irregular lifestyle, where day and night are often reversed. This undoubtedly makes it difficult for them to maintain a stable family life, let alone spend time with children. A former flight attendant shared her thoughts about this profession.
谁都没想到，在我当空姐的第8年
Who would have thought that in my 8th year as a flight attendant, I quietly submitted my resignation letter without telling my parents or even my husband? Many people think that flight attendants resign because they married rich men. But in reality, most flight attendants don't leave because of love or marriage, it's because their bodies simply can't take it anymore. Looking back at my 8 years of flying, the hardest part wasn't putting on makeup every day, wearing high heels, or constantly flying with no stable routine. What truly wore me down was the long-term, irregular schedule that almost destroyed my health. Sometimes, I had to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning to get ready for work. Other times, the latest flights didn't land until 2 or 3 in the morning, and by the time I got home, it was already dawn. Flying international routes was even worse, an entire overnight flight followed by jet lag. Some people might say I'm too fragile, that many people work hard, so why can't I push through? But I've always had trouble sleeping. Even when I was in college, if someone got up at night in the dorm across the hall, I'd wake up and be unable to fall back asleep. This kind of reversed schedule over the long term was simply a form of slow destruction for my body. I could clearly feel my condition deteriorating year after year. When I first joined the airline, my skin was so tender and glowing it could be pinched for water. By the 2nd and 4th years, I started developing severe skin allergies and redness. By the 6th year, I had to take 2 months off due to health issues. And in the 8th year, my face was covered in acne so badly that even heavy concealer and foundation couldn't hide it. I went to resign with a face full of pimples. I was around 30 years old at the time. And now 5 years have passed, I've switched to a new job. My family and friends all say I'm looking better every year.
This reversed lifestyle clearly isn't something every man can accept. Perhaps this is one of the main reasons why many men hesitate to pursue flight attendants. Secondly, this profession has extremely strict requirements for appearance. Becoming a flight attendant requires going through several rounds of selection, and during work, they must maintain a refined appearance, with polished manners and graceful speech. They must always wear a smile while facing passengers. However, such a polished image is rarely seen at home. After work, they are often exhausted, change into comfortable home clothes, and appear lazy and drained. As a result, there is a stark contrast between their work persona and their personal life. A single flight attendant shared her experience in love.
空姐在飞机上和在家里的反差大吗？
She couldn't help but sigh when recalling it. It felt like I was two completely different people. She said, On the plane, she was gentle and sweet, spoke softly, and always remained polite. No matter how tired she was, she kept smiling and providing service. Even when passengers were being unreasonable, she patiently calmed them down and showed perfect professionalism. But once she got home, the atmosphere instantly shifted. Sometimes, when she was in a bad mood, she would lash out at her boyfriend the moment she opened her mouth, emotions pouring out like a flood. Especially if she had suffered grievances on the flight and had no outlet to vent the moment she stepped into the house. Even if her partner had done nothing wrong, he might still become her emotional trash bin. She joked, "On the plane I'm a gentle little lamb, but at home I turn into a fierce northeast tiger." Completely different aura. Another factor that must be considered is safety. In recent years, flight accidents have occurred from time to time, and every air disaster brings irreparable trauma to families. For pilots or flight attendants, their lives also carry enormous risk, which undoubtedly acts like a ticking time bomb for many families. A current flight attendant recalled a dangerous situation she once encountered.
聊一聊曾经在飞机行驶的过程中所遇到过的危险状况。
When I think back carefully, I'd say I've been pretty lucky throughout my flying career. I've never experienced a truly serious or life-threatening incident. But there was one thing that I still remember vividly. That time, I was on a flight from Shanghai Pudong to Osaka. The plane had already landed, what we call in professional terms as a touchdown. Normally, both crew and passengers would consider the flight to be over by then, with everything going smoothly. But just when we thought mission accomplished, the plane suddenly took off again and climbed rapidly into the sky. In that moment, the entire cabin became tense. The atmosphere was so heavy that people held their breath. Passengers could clearly feel something was wrong and started looking at us flight attendants. At that moment, I happened to be sitting facing the passengers. Although I was extremely nervous inside, as a flight attendant trained to handle emergencies, I had to remain composed in front of the passengers. So I pretended to be calm, kept a natural expression, and acted like everything was under control. That feeling of calm on the surface, nervous underneath, is something only those who have experienced it would understand. Fortunately, the plane landed safely in the end. It was a scare, but nothing more. Still, the experience taught me a great lesson. Never let your guard down during any part of a flight.
Therefore, the riskiness of this profession is another reason why many men hesitate to consider flight attendants for marriage. Moreover, the tough nature of the job also causes men to hesitate. Becoming a flight attendant requires long-term professional training and a strict selection process. Yet the actual work mostly involves serving passengers. They must wear tidy uniforms, smile at all kinds of passengers, and provide patient service. But when faced with frustration at work, they often have to suppress their emotions until after work to vent. This makes many men feel that flight attendants aren't gentle enough when in a relationship. This kind of stress, which is hard to release, also causes many flight attendants to choose to remain single. Lastly, ordinary men often lack the confidence to pursue flight attendants. Flight attendants are not only attractive and well-paid, but their overall qualities are often excellent. This leads to higher standards in their choice of partners, making it hard for average men to meet their expectations. Even for those who have the courage to pursue them, dating a flight attendant is not easy. They must always maintain a good appearance and interact with all kinds of people, including wealthy businessmen and elites. One netizen joked, "She's surrounded by bosses, and I'm just an office worker. I don't even dare to strike up a conversation, let alone pursue her."
其实空姐这个职业在恋爱和相亲市场都是困难户。
A brother once asked me, "Is it possible to marry a flight attendant?" This is actually a very interesting topic, and I'm sure many guys are curious about it. To be honest, the profession of flight attendant has always been a bit awkward in the dating and marriage market. Logically, these girls, whether it's looks, figure, or manners, are eye-catching in any social setting. But strangely, in the marriage market, they've become somewhat of a problem group. Why is that? Because in the minds of many men, marrying a flight attendant means you must be a high-level man, handsome, financially stable, well-employed, and living a stable life. That immediately makes a lot of ordinary men back off, thinking they're not good enough. At the same time, flight attendants themselves have high standards for partners, so this mutual mismatch is quite common. But in fact, most flight attendants come from ordinary families. Many worked hard to pass the airline's entrance exams. Those so-called rich second-generation or official second-generation families would never let their daughters become flight attendants. Even families with slightly better conditions would rather have their daughters pursue graduate studies, civil service exams, or enter careers with better development opportunities. The income of flight attendants is also not as high as people imagine, generally around 10,000 to 20,000 yuan per month. If they fly more during holidays, they might earn a bit more. But now, with the domestic economy in decline and the aviation industry heavily impacted, I've heard many flight attendants' income has been cut in half. The pressure is no less than that of an ordinary white-collar worker. More realistically, this job is a youth-dependent job, a job that relies on youth and appearance. As age increases, looks decline rapidly. The promotion opportunities are also very limited, which creates anxiety in relationships. Plus, their high standards for partners actually limit their own choices. On the contrary, those truly high net worth and successful men often don't choose flight attendants as wives. Why? Very simple. First, most flight attendants have relatively low academic qualifications, strong mood swings, and their patience and gentleness are already exhausted during work. Second, their work rhythm is fast, they're always flying around, and family life lacks routine. Third, from a career synergy perspective, flight attendants can hardly contribute to the man's professional development. So, many flight attendants eventually marry men much older than themselves, some even divorced with kids. The age and lifestyle gap is big, but it's a realistic choice. Today's flight attendants are no longer the glamorous profession they were 20 or 30 years ago. They still have charm, but they also face significant pressure and real-life struggles.
In this situation, ordinary working men find it hard to compete, making many of them feel inferior and eventually give up. In conclusion, although flight attendants have many advantages, their unique work-life pattern, strict appearance requirements, high-risk job nature, and superior personal conditions have all become reasons why most men hesitate. Pursuing a flight attendant isn't just about chasing beauty. It involves various real-life considerations. When choosing a partner, every profession has its own traits and advantages. In the end, the decision should be based on a comprehensive vision of future life. So, what kind of profession do you think would be the ideal match for your life partner?